and welcome to Africa Today. I am Esther Mopariola. In a world where democratic process serves as the scorecard for good governance, elections are held regularly, featuring the incumbents' quest to hold on to power and the opposition's move to take over. While 11 African countries will be holding presidential poll next year, observers have tagged the 2019 general election in Nigeria as one of the most important on the continent, with the recent outcome of political party primaries coming as a wake-up call and a sign of what to expect in the next 128 days. And so we ask, what are your thoughts on political developments in Nigeria ahead of a general election early next year? You can join the conversation and share your thoughts with us on Twitter at TVC News NG. We take a report now, and Africa Today will continue. Welcome on board.
The People's Democratic Party elective convention started in the early hours of Sunday, with delegates from different states taking turns to cast their ballot in an election which had 12 aspirants vying for the party's presidential ticket.
37.
At the end of the contest, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar scored 1,532 votes to defeat Sokoto Governor Aminu Tambuwal, who garnered 693 votes.
I wish to declare His Excellency Alhaji Atiku Abubakar GCON is elected as the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party.
We have just been, elected. So you should give us time to plan our strategies, and then we can get back to you.
But again, the Northwest has 18 million votes. Can you capture that votes?
Why not? We can divide those votes. We can split the votes. It has been done before. So what is there? Yes, we can.
One of the leaders of the party, Raymond Dogbesi, and Bayelsa State Governor and also Chairman, PDP Reconciliation Committee, are calling for party unity for a resounding victory.
The delegates have spoken, and they have selected a man who understands our country, a man who has the requisite experience, who has the requisite reach out.
I pray that the members of the party will rally around the presidential candidates now, and they will work with him to give Nigerians the dividends of democracy.
Welcome back. Well, before we get into the discussion of the day, let's update you on some of the top news stories around Africa. 8 Chadian soldiers died in a Boko Haram attack in the Lake Chad region, with 48 jihadists killed as the army retaliated. A massive grave containing 75 bodies have been found near the former jihadist bastion of Sirte in western Libya. Family of Egypt's jailed former president says his youngest son has been taken into custody by security personnel for questioning. Now joining me to look at the latest political developments in Nigeria ahead of the general election in 2019, I have Adebayo Moyosore, founder, Ignite Initiative Nigeria. And I also have Moremi Ojudu, founder, Youth Next Nigeria. Thank you very much for being a part of the program.
Thank you so very much. It's a pleasure being here today.
Now let me begin with you now, Moyo. Looking at this situation in Nigeria, we have varied options. We have varied presidential candidates. We have the incumbent and we have the opposition. And in the opposition, we have younger categories. We have the likes of Obi Ezekwesili, we have Donald Duke, we have Kingsley Moghalu, we have Shore. Now, what are your thoughts on the numerous presidential candidates we have ahead of 2019?
Yeah, it's a very laudable development coming at this time. Don't you feel whether it's democracy? That's the beauty of democracy, options and choices. That the general electorate, populace have the options of choosing who and what party platform they would like to align their, votes with. By and large, what comes to mind is a question of structure. How well, how grounded are these aspirants in terms of, grassroots and then party structure? How well do you have their parties at, ward levels represented? How well do you have their aspirants cutting across the divides in the country? And many more other issues to look into.
So if you say the structure is that important, are you trying to say that it's more important than those who can deliver good governance to the people?
Pardon?
If you say structure of each of these parties, presidential candidates' parties is more important, would you say it's better or it's a prerequisite than for them to say they have a choice or they have something better to offer to the people in terms of good governance now?
No, that's not necessarily what I'm saying by implication or by interpretation. What I'm trying to say is that no matter how, in Nigeria of today, we still have remote areas where you do not have the electricity, where you do not even have technological advancements. So there's some, that's the grassroots level, and some very remote rural areas. How do you get across to such voters? It has to do with party structure. So no matter how well you have, no matter how well your intentions are for the country, if you are not rooted in terms of structure to those people who do not have access to technology, who do not have access to, IEC materials, I mean, your job is not, it's not going to reflect. So by and large, if you do not have a sound structure, you are not likely to get anywhere.
So that is going
no
to be,
matter how good you may
that might affect their chances in 2019.
Definitely.
All right, Moremi, from your position now, it's going to be a tight race for the ruling party against the opposition in 2019. What are your expectations?
I actually expect a very tight race, tightly contested. And it's going to be a very interesting scenario to watch, particularly with the debates aspect, political debates, the manifestos that these two parties, major parties anyway, because we have about 15 candidates who have been confirmed, who are full candidates and no longer aspirants for the presidential race. So from the youth angle, it's going to be something really interesting for us to watch. We have about, say, 5 candidates from the youth population who are also vying for this political position. So it's indeed something that I believe would give Nigerians, there will be lots of choices for Nigerians to make with regards to this particular elections. So I feel that basically Nigerians have to be on their guards. They have to be knowledgeable and understand the principles that guides each of these candidates, the ideologies behind their political parties, and with that knowledge, they should be able to cast their votes, on the elections day.
And talking about choices, Moremi, do you think perhaps the younger candidates now have what it takes to take the country to where it hopes to be? Because we're talking about good governance that has eluded us for so many years, and the younger ones seem to have a better option, or will I say have a better intention for the lot of Nigerians. Do you think they would have the chance in 2019?
Realistically, no, we may not have the chance, because looking at the political parties where these young aspirants, young candidates are coming from, they don't have the right structures in place at the grassroots level in all the 36 states and the FCT of Nigeria. So it's going to be very tough, looking at it on a very realistic note, for any young candidate to, emerge as the presidential, as the president-elect on that day. But most of the young people who have come out and who have actually shown interest in the political race have the experience. They have what it takes to rule the country, I must confess. Because when you talk about experience, it's pretty simple. Most of these young aspirants have businesses that they've been able to run for, say, 20 years, 18 to 20 years in a while. They've been able to run their businesses. There's a structure. And when you talk about the experience, and if you take a cue from the, older politicians who've been, very much in the race, the experience that we have there is just experience on corruption, experience on, I have these huge billions of money in my account. These experiences are not encouraging to the young people. So we believe that if that's the experiences that people out there are saying, do you have the experience? Then it's not something we should be proud to say that we don't have that. We don't even want to have that experience. The experience we want to have is the experience of proper, being able to manage the resources of the country, being able to lead this country aright economically and as a whole, being able to cut across all divisive methods and be able to unify this country from different angles of the society and of our country generally.
All right, let's quickly go on a very quick break now. You're watching Africa Today, and we've been looking at political developments in Nigeria ahead of elections in 2019. Welcome back. The incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari was affirmed as the candidate of the All Progressives Congress at its party's national convention last weekend. On the same day, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar was elected the candidate of the People's Democratic Party. While many believe that next year's election will be closely fought between the two leading parties, there are a lot more candidates who will appear on the ballot, including former minister and activist Obi Ezekwesili and former governor of Cross River State, Donald Duke, among other key contenders in the race. Now, Moyo, before we went on break, you were, given this position that perhaps the youth might not have the chance to grab the center in 2019 because of poor party structure and all of that, even though they have good intentions to lead the people. But then again, it raises the question of how many parties do we have? We have 91 political parties, and so far, there are only two major political parties that seem to be the major contenders in this race, the APC and the PDP. So if that is the case, do we say that we have a choice here between these two parties that seem to be of leaders that have been recycled over the years? Do you think we have any choice here in 2019? In as much as in Nigeria we are operating one party system, there is still room for choice or choices to be made. No matter what, if I narrow down my discussion to what you've just said, looking at the two major contenders, we should look at the antecedents too. Right.
Antecedents says a lot. The antecedent brings a lot to mind. I was just looking at I just read about one of the aspirants, spending so much money in terms of FX dollars to buy votes. I don't know if it's desperation or, what do you call that? And then, I don't want to sound too partisan here, but realistically speaking, Nigerians should think deeply before going to the polling units to vote. Look at if you feel you cannot dwell or vote for any of the two major contenders, you look elsewhere. But by and large, I would tell you that this country needs to stabilize on the road they've started on.
And which road is that?
This present democratic administration,
right,
to me, to some extent, has done a lot. And Nigerians should think deeply.
Mm. Okay, now, Moremi, from your own position now, do you think perhaps we're going to see a different outlook in 2019 in terms of the parties now? Are we going to still see the same kind of structure, APC, PDP in 2019?
Personally, I actually worry about the elections and the structuring of the elections, looking at taking a cue from Ekiti State and Osun State, looking at what happened in Ekiti, particularly with the vote buying. It's a huge source of concern for us at the CSO's level, and we're trying to see how we can, work together with INEC to curb all of these, issues with regards to vote buying and being able to leave the voter to take their own choice objectively without that sentiment of having to buy, they've been able to buy their vote or being watched or anything. So for us, it's a major concern with taking a cue from Ekiti State and also from Osun's elections too. It was, a bit laced with some violence in some areas and local governments in Osun State. So we are hoping that by February next year, the INEC would have been able to take all of this and be able to, be on guard and deliver better elections monitoring and ensure that all of this is properly channeled in the right direction. So from us at the CSO's level, we're going to be taking a huge work on this, and we're going to be thinking, and creating more dynamic, innovative and dynamic choices for INEC in which they can curb all of this.
Now, Moremi, if I want to digress a little bit further, I want you to tell us what you think, because, when we're talking about political parties in Nigeria, there are only two major parties right now as we speak, even though we have a plethora of them all over around us. APC and PDP seems to be the strong parties now for the lot of what we had to, choose from in 2019. Do you think perhaps it's what we're going to settle for, from your analysis earlier, that the youth don't have a chance in 2019?
That's a really, 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 that's a very, very tricky question, I must say. But it's tough. As I said also, it's going to be a huge and Herculean task for the average Nigerian voter, because the average Nigerian voter also would not want to waste his or her votes and look at it. Because if you look at the past elections with Osun and Ekiti State, most of these parties didn't have, some of them had 200 votes. So the average voter will be thinking that, why should I cast my vote for that party when I know they have nowhere to go to in court? They'll say, oh, they have nowhere to go to, where are they going? So basically, the race is still going to be, and taking a cue from also the social media trends, people's talks, there's been a deviation, and there's a lot of concentration on APC and PDP. PDP's primaries trended some days back, APC too as well. So there's been a lot of, focus and spotlight on APC and PDP, those two major political parties. So at the end of the day, I see Nigerian voters tilting towards these two major parties and trying to make a choice between two of these presidential candidates. I see that happening towards 2019 elections.
All right. Now, let me quickly come to you now, Moyo. Before now, we had, the young minds coming together to form a group. We had Kingston Moghalu, we had Showore, and we had Foladuro Toye. But along the line, they fell apart. So some are saying perhaps they all had their personal interest instead of the collective one in terms of delivering good governance to the people. But why do you think they fell apart?
Well, for me, I think it's an ideological issue. If you don't want to go my way, or your manifesto isn't reading my manifesto, you're bound to have issues. Aside from that, in the political realm, once you put yourself forward to run, it's not just about you. The aspirant may be willing to give in, but what's the party structure saying? What's the party leadership saying? Are they willing to collapse their structure to accommodate other aspirants? So it's, if we're looking at it critically, it may not just be one or two reasons. There may be many factors. Yes, it could be selfish interest. You never could say it could be ideological issues. You never could say it could be party manifesto problems. They interlock somewhere. So you never can say, but definitely it's quite unfortunate that we've been clamoring for young representation over the years, and we have such a golden opportunity, and it flopped.
And so you wouldn't term it to be selfish agenda?
No, I would be fair enough not to say it's selfish, in as much as I do not know the details. Exactly.
Okay, talking about accountability, which is what we have been talking about now, which was what we want as a people now in Nigeria. We've not had leaders who are accountable to the people. So from your own position now, Moyo, do you think we can you know, put our leaders to test in terms of ensuring that they do what it is expected of them? What can we do? What can we do to ensure that they are accountable to us, and we ensure that they do what is expected of them as leaders to us?
Now, the terrain is going to change as days go by. Not too long ago, in one of the states in the north, I'm sure you heard of the electorate throwing tomatoes at one of the representatives. Now, even we Nigerians, we are not accustomed to, we're not accustomed to the processes of bringing our leaders to book.
Yeah.
The Freedom of Information Bill has been passed, it's been domesticated, but it's not been effectively utilized. We are not asking questions. And that brings to mind how the system works. Now, taking a cue from what Moremi has just said, even if you bring them, even if you ask the questions, what's the essence of it? Even if you find out that this leader is corrupt, what's the aftermath of it? I think that's one of the reasons why Nigerians are no longer taking measures or taking steps. Because after all, it doesn't work. It never takes effect. It doesn't count.
So what can we do to change that perception?
I think Nigerians should start holding the bull by the horn.
And the bull by the horn will be what, in what sense?
You know, stoning these people. You get to the airport, you quiz them, you ask questions. You disgrace them. That way, they shy away. That's the truth. You look at the man that, let me mention the state that was stoned. He's not back in the house today. This recent prime minister, he lost out. So if dialogue doesn't work, I'm not preaching violence. We must take an alternative route to questioning these people. As a matter of fact, looking at the composition of the National Assembly today, I beg to say, and I beg for you to differ, that we do not have very competent, responsible. I saw a skit not so long ago, just today, and I saw, you know, a senator in court that is expected to be distinguished, you know, going to clean the Senate president's seat and say we're going to beat ourselves in the hollow chambers today. How responsible are these people? How did they get there? So it's high time we started stoning them out. That's the reality.
Moremi, what's your position on this?
I think he's been able to say that, you know, that's actually an activist point of view. But one of the things that we are trying to do from our organization is to ensure that we, prior to the elections, we talk to these candidates one-on-one, have an interview with them, and know more of their manifestos using, you know, vocally. We're going to take video recordings, voice recordings of what they want to do. So that way we are holding them by the jugular. And also on air, on tape, they will be made to also make like swear, you know, like I promise, take a pledge in court. They will be made to take a pledge on their service as well, you know, as I take up this responsibility, I promise to do this and that. So we're going to be using the social media, you know, aspects where we'll just play back those videotapes. So should any senator who gets to the House does anything contrary to what he has said or has not even carried out anything on his manifesto, that video will be played out to him and he would see what he has done. So that's one of the steps to be taken to make them accountable, one of our leaders accountable as well.
Okay.
Also, we'll be taking up, you know, close monitorings at their constituency level, following up and knowing what they really, you know, want to do and how far they've gone with all of it. So 2019 is not going to be talk as usual.
Right.
It's more of action.
Right. Now, Moyo, I know you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say something. Perhaps Moremi has forgotten that a one-time Minister of Aviation swore to an oath. And then you remember the bulletproof BMW car scandal. You know of the case of the Code of Conduct Tribunal. They all swore to an oath before they got to those offices.
So in other words,
and then I'm taking a cue by Moremi's, after Moremi's last statement, saying that we should do less of talking and more of action.
Right.
And the action is that we must hold the bull by the horn.
Okay, and on that note, let's close the show tonight. Thank you very much, Moyo Adebayo, founder. Adebanjo, so sorry for that. Founder in Night Initiative Nigeria, and Moremi Ojudu, founder Youth Next Nigeria. We appreciate your time on Africa Today.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
For the 6th time since 1999, Nigerians will head to the poll in 2019, more politically conscious, with another chance to take their destinies in their own hands, knowing that they deserve more than they get from their leaders. The countdown continues as the clock keeps ticking towards the day of reckoning for politicians, with enough time still left for the electoral umpire to get it right as an institution and deliver what could become Nigeria's most credible election ever. And that is our package for tonight. But don't forget to join the conversation as usual on Twitter at TVC News NG, and also follow me for updates around Africa at Esther TVC News. Until the next one, again, I am Esther Mokwariola, and always remember, Africa can only get better.